Zat Hashem. Let's go. Today in Masechet Shabbat, we're starting at Lametet Amud Bet, the top of the page. Maaseh Shasu Anshe Tveria. That's what we're holding. Now, the Gemara we're going to discuss today, it's really one topic. We're going to discuss the idea of heating up / showering and bathing with hot water on Shabbat and Yom Tov. That's the Gemara we're going to learn today. It's actually very nogea. Taking a shower on Yom Tov, right? You're allowed to or not allowed to.
Confusion.
It's very confusing. At Bezat Hashem, we'll try to get some clarity today. But B'kitzur, we're going to speak about that specifically because it's nogea to the story of the Anshe Tveria. Remember, that was the story.
Yeah.
They put the pipe of cold water through the Chamei Tveria, which is hot spring, came out on the other side in like a pool, and then they wanted to use that. So the Chachamim came and they said to them, if this was Shabbat, it's asur, as if you heated it up on Shabbat, both b'shtiya over chitza. If it was Yom Tov, so then it's asur, as if you heated it on Yom Tov. It's asur for chitza, but it's mutar for shtiya.
It's off ochel.
Oh, so that's what we're gonna be discussing today. Dafka, I was thinking, because Lag BaOmer, there's a shayachut. We said Rabbi Ashbi came out of the cave, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair brought him to the bathhouse and was washing him. So I'm sure there's some shayachut to the day, like we're learning. Yochai, you hear me good?
Yochai.
Yochai. Hopefully he does.
Guys, I heard you very good. I just put in the mute.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, good. Let's get started. Maaseh Shasu Anshe Tveria. Okay, so let's remember, the Mishnah said like this. These Anshe Tveria set up this system of putting the cold water pipe through Chamei Tveria, and then it came out the other side, heated up. Now, they set it up before Shabbat, but it was going on Shabbat. So what did the Chachamim say? They said like this. The Chachamim said in the Mishnah, they said, if this was done on Shabbat, so then asur b'chitza and shtiya. Washing, or for drinking, and why? So the words of the Mishnah, if you remember, the way they said it was, Im b'Shabbat kichamin shehu chamu b'Shabbat v'asuin b'chitza u'v'shtiya. It's Lamed Chet Amud Bet at the bottom of the page. They said, if this was done on Shabbat, meaning you set it up before Shabbat and then it led into Shabbat, it's as if you heated it up on Shabbat, and therefore, bless you, it's asur b'chitza and shtiya. If it was b'Yom Tov, so then they said it's as if you heated it up on Yom Tov, so asur b'chitza mutar b'shtiya.
What's the difference?
That's what they said in the Mishnah.
But what's the difference?
Oh.
You warm it.
Correct.
Mazim shane if I take a shower or if I wash it, drink it.
On Yom Tov, you're asking?
Yeah, what's the difference?
So on Yom Tov, we know there's a concept of ochel nefesh, which is mutar. So therefore, we understand why it's mutar b'shtiya. B'shtiya. Question is going to be, what exactly are we talking about when we say rechitza? Because remember, the words of the Mishnah, the Chachamim said, it's as if you heated it up on Shabbat. It's as if you heated it up on Yom Tov. So let's stop for a second. What's the mashma'ut of the words of the Chachamim? That let's say you had heated it up before Shabbat or before Yom Tov. That what would be the halacha?
Mutar.
Chitza would be mutar. So the Gemara is now going to challenge that because the way they say it is, it's as if you heated it up before Shabbat, before Yom Tov, and it's asur b'chitza. So what type of a chitza are we talking about? Where if it was heated up before Shabbat or Yom Tov, the rechitza would be mutar. If it was heated up on Shabbat or Yom Tov, the rechitza is asur. There's different types of rechitza. You could have kol gufo, you could have panav yadav raglav, and the third option we're going to have is taking a shower, shtifa, which is not kol gufo in a bathtub.
Rechitza, we're talking about dipping.
That's going to be the question. So we're going to try to figure out what are we referring to in the Mishnah. We say rechitza. Does it mean going into a bath, like merchatzaot that they used to have? Does it mean washing panav yadav raglav, which is a leniency, obviously? And the third option, which we're going to actually conclude, is the Mishnah is talking about taking a shower. Shower is not the derech they used to do normally in the bathhouses, and that's why that's actually going to be what we're talking about. So let's see.
They didn't have those.
Yeah. So let's see. Now we're going to deal today with Gzeirot Rabbanan. So let's focus and let's get this. Maaseh shasu anshe tefillah. My rechitza. Now again, the Mishnah's words were the Chachamim said, if this was before Shabbat, it's like you heated the water on Shabbat, v'asur b'rechitza. So what rechitza are we talking about? Ilaim rechitzat kol gufo. If the pshat is, it means they were saying, you're not allowed to wash your whole body. That's what they were saying, like in the bathhouse. The problem is, Ella, what would that imply? Chamin shu chamu b'Shabbat hu dasurin. That the reason it's asur is because it's like you heated it on Shabbat. Ha mashma chamin shu chamu me'erev Shabbat. That if you would have heated up that water before Shabbat, the words of the Chachamim are mashma, implying mutarin, that you would be allowed to take a bath in those waters. But the problem with that is, we know that's not true. We know, as we're about to show in a minute, and we'll learn more on Daf Mem tomorrow, is that there's a gzerah derabanan to take a bath, kol gufo, on Shabbat, even if the water was heated up before Shabbat, is asur midarabanan. Now, why is it asur midarabanan? So they made what's called gzerat merchatzaot or gzerat balanim. Balanin. Balanin. What is the gzera? The gzera was like this. It used to be in the bathhouses, so people wanted to take a bath on Shabbat. Now, theoretically, if you heat it up before Shabbat, and you take a bath on Shabbat, it shouldn't be a problem.
Shema is going to heat it
but
up
what's
in
the
Shabbat.
problem? The bathhouse attendants, the people working in the bathhouse, started to do a shtick. What they used to do was they would heat it up on Shabbat and say it was heated before Shabbat. So came along the Chachamim and they made a gzera. This is the classic gzera. They said, because you're going to say you heated it up before, but really you're going to heat it up on Shabbat, so therefore you're not even allowed to take a bath in water that was heated up before Shabbat, on Shabbat. That's what they said. So says the Mishnah, says the Gemara, the words of the Chachamim can't be referring to Kol Gufo, because the Chachamim said, it was like it was heated up on Shabbat, so you can't take a Rechitza. If Rechitza means Kol Gufo, even if it was heated up before Shabbat, there's a Gzerat Rabbanan, Gzerat Merchatzaot or Balanin, that prohibits that. So that can't be the Pshat and Rechitza in our Mishnah. Let's read that inside. V'atanya, but the Braita taught us, and we're going to learn later, Chamin shu chamu me'ev Shabbat, if the water was heated before Shabbat, Lemachar rochet bahen panav yadav v'raglav. You are allowed to wash face, hands, and feet. That's mutar on Shabbat with those waters. Avalo kol gufo. But you're not allowed to wash your entire body. So, because of this gzera that the Chachamim made, you're not allowed to wash your whole body, even though the waters were heated up the day before. So that can't be pshat in the Mishnah, that the rechitza they were saying was asur, was kol gufo, because if it was kol gufo, even if it was heated up before Shabbat, it would be asur to wash kol gufo.
But what's the difference?
What's the difference?
If I wash my hands, feet, and face,
Yeah.
and I wash all my body, I might end up also heating up the water in Shabbat.
Beautiful, beautiful. Because the difference is, when they made the gzeira, they made it for merchatzaot. What was done in merchatzaot? Kol gufo in the bath. So therefore, actually we're going to speak more about this later, it didn't extend the panav yadav raglav. So therefore, if you heated the water before Shabbat, you can wash on Shabbat panav yadav raglav. But kol gufo, that was the gzeira. So you can't tell me when it says rechitza in the Mishnah it's asur, it means kol gufo, because that would be asur even if it was heated before Shabbat. But the words of the Chachamim were, it's as if it was huchamu b'Shabbat, and therefore it's asur. So clearly it can't be kol gufo, because that would be asur even if it was huchamu before Shabbat. So Ella, so the Gemara says it must be. When the Chachamim said in the Mishnah, asur b'chitza, because it was heated on Shabbat, what are they referring to? Panav yadav raglav. It must be what they're saying is, Panav yadav raglav, is that they were saying like this, even if it was heated before Shabbat, you would be allowed to wash Panav yadav raglav. So, but since you set up this system that throughout Shabbat it was being heated, through the Chamei Teveria, even Panav yadav raglav is going to be asur. That's what they meant in Rechitza. That's what the Chachamim were saying in the Mishnah. The problem is, in the end of the Mishnah, when they spoke about Yom Tov, you have to translate Rechitza the same way. Meaning, however you're translating Rechitza in the Reisha, you'll have to translate in the Seifa, the end of their words too. So what you're learning now, Pshat, says the Gemara, is Asur B'chitza, as if it was Uchamu B'Shabbat, it means to wash Panav Yadav Raglav. That even though the Etzim, if it was heated before Shabbat, you should be allowed to. Here, where you set up this system, which is a problem, therefore you're not allowed to even wash Panav Yadav Raglav. But in the end of the Mishnah, we said on Yom Tov, they said it's as if it was heated on Yom Tov and Asur B'chitza. The problem is, the way you're going to come out now is, Asur B'chitza means you're not allowed to heat up water on Yom Tov to wash Panav yadav raglav. The issue with that is the shita of Beit Shammai. And Beit Hillel actually holds you are allowed to warm up water on Yom Tov to wash panav yadav raglav. But this is a Stam Mishnah. So what's going to come out then is you're saying the Stam Mishnah follows Beit Shammai. Well, right, but the point is the Stam Mishnah here will be like the Shita of Beit Shammai and not like the Shita of Beit Hillel, which we don't want to say. Because usually we paskin like a Stam Mishnah, but we paskin like Beit Hillel over Beit Shammai. Let's read that inside. Ema Seifa, says the Gemara, but now look at the Seifa. Because the end of the words of the Chachamim say, the Yom Tov, that if this was done on Yom Tov, the Chachamim said, if you set up this pipe before Yom Tov, and the water was coming through on Yom Tov, kechamin shuchamu b'Yom Tov, so we look at it as if the waters were heated on a Yom Tov, v'asurin b'chitza, and again, it's asurin b'chitza, mutarin b'shtiyah. Now we understand why it's mutarin b'shtiyah, because Ochel nefesh is mutar on Yom Tov. You could heat up water for drinking, but eating, cooking, b'chulei. But for rechitza, what do you mean asur? It means asur as if it was heated on Yom Tov, even asur for panav yadav raglav, to wash them. The problem is lema tanan stama kebet Shammai. Then it's going to come out that the tanan stama, meaning the Stam Mishnah, comes out like Beit Shammai. Because the Tanan, the Mishnah and Beitzah teaches us.
How can I know this?
How could you know what?
That it's referring to Beit Shammai.
Oh, let's see. We're going to see now, because there's a Mishnah and Beitzah that says, Beit Shammai omrim, lo yachem adam chamin l'raglav, ela im ken ro'yin l'shtiyah. So Beit Shammai's opinion is that on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to warm up water just to wash your feet. What are you allowed to do? If you're warming it up anyways to drink, so some of the leftover water you could use to wash your feet. So Beit Shammai holds that Ochel Nefesh only allows you to do warming for Ochel Nefesh. If there's some left over, you could wash your feet. But you're not lechatchila allowed to warm up water to wash your feet. Rega. Beit Hillel matirin. But Beit Hillel says you are allowed to warm up water to wash your feet. So let's speak out the question now. What comes out is like this. Rechitza can't mean kol gufo, because we know that even if it was warmed up before Shabbat, that would be asur to wash kol gufo. It's gzera merchatzaot. So it must be, it's referring to panav yadav raglav. So says the Gemara, beautiful. So then you could say, if you heat it up for panav yadav raglav on Shabbat, it's asur to do rechitza. I understand. Problem is, the end of the words of the Chachamim have to be, it has to flow. You can't say rechitza means two different things. That just doesn't make sense. So what does it mean in the Seifa? Then asur b'chitza is that if you put the pipe through the Chamei Tveria, it's going to be asur b'chitza, as if it was heated up on Yom Tov. The problem is, water heated up on Yom Tov to wash your feet, according to Beit Shammai, is asur. According to Beit Hillel, that's mutar. So it would come out then that our Mishnah, which is a Stam Mishnah, which usually we paskin like, will be like Beit Shammai. We don't want to paskin like Beit Shammai. So that can't be. Mm-hmm. So the Gemara says, okay, so it can't be. Let's scratch that. What does rechitza mean? It doesn't mean kol gufo, bathing. It doesn't mean panav yadav raglav. Third option. It means taking a shower. A shower is different. Shower, we're going to see, it's not so clear if this was included in the gzeira of merchatzaot. Because in the merchatzaot, they really took baths. It was a bathhouse. So shower is the shai. This is going to be, we're going to see our Mishnah follows opinion of Rabbi Shimon. Beautiful. And on the Lag BaOmer, our Mishnah follows Rabbi Shimon's opinion as we're about to see. So
according to the cooking, Ochel Nefesh,
yeah,
there is always a loophole that you can find. You can just take more water, and then your leftover, you're going to use them for...
But according to Beit Hillel, you don't even need to do that. According to Beit Hillel,
you can warm up... Shammai, I don't understand the Chumrah here.
Why don't you understand the Chumrah?
Because if Ochel Nefesh mutar b'shtiyah, right, or bishul.
To warm it up.
And then if you have leftovers...
Correct. Right.
There is always going to be like, something that will fall in between the
this is a little bit left over you could do, but you can't warm dafka for rechitzat panav yadav raglav. That's the shita.
But if I'm using it for eggs.
That's different. That's very different. In a chinami. But Beit Hillel holds legame. You could warm it up for washing your legs. There's no gzeira there. Warm it up on Yom Tov. It is the logic Beit Hillel is mitoch. It's called mitoch. Mitoch, that it's mutar. Because it's mutar for ochel nefesh, for warming up your soup, whatever, you could also warm it up for washing your panav yadav raglav. Now, I want to just point something out before we continue. Tosfot over here points out that even according to Beit Hillel, that you could warm water up on Yom Tov for panav yadav raglav, but you can't warm up a bath for kol gufo. Tosfot points this out. What's the difference between them? If he holds it's mutar, mitoch, you could warm it up. So he says, Tosfot says the reason is because the only thing that you can say this logic, since you could warm it up for ochel nefesh, you could also warm it up for washing, is only for something that's shove l'chol nefesh. What does it mean, shove l'chol nefesh? It means that this is something everybody does. People didn't used to take baths every day, but people did wash panav yadav raglav every day. So therefore, it's like nichlal in ochel nefesh, washing panav yadav raglav. So Mamela Beit Hillel holds that you're allowed to warm up water on Yom Tov, dafka for panav yadav raglav. But to warm it up, to take a full bath, they wouldn't allow, and as we'll see, perhaps also to take a shower. This actually gets into halacha l'maaseh. Today, people take showers every day.
Yeah.
So, if we paskin like Beit Hillel, what should be the halacha on Yom Tov? You're allowed to do something that's shov l'chol nefesh that everybody does. The chalarat should be allowed to take a shower on Yom Tov, legamri, just to take a shower. That's going to be tachlis. We
because
get to
it's the norm.
It's the norm, exactly. So let's see. So the Gemara says a different answer. Amar Avika bar Chananya lehishtatef bahen kol gufo askinan. In the Mishnah, when we say, Chachamim say, you're not allowed to wash with those waters either on Shabbat or on Yom Tov because it was warmed up on Shabbat or Yom Tov. It's talking about lehishtatef bahen kol gufo. It means to take a shower, to rinse off, to shower off your entire body. Now, let's just plug it back into the Mishnah now. So we're going to see it's the Tana Rabbi Shimon in a minute, we'll see. But what it means is like this. They came to the people of Tiberia and they said, what were you trying to do? You had the cold water going through the Chamei Tveria, coming out in a pool, and then you were going to take those waters of the clean waters that were warmed up and take a shower. So now what they were saying was like this. That's as if it was heated up on Shabbat or on Yom Tov. To take a shower, you're not allowed. Now, similar to what I said before, Beit Hillel only allows you to warm up waters for panav yadav raglav. But to warm up waters for a bath or to take a shower, that wouldn't be allowed. Now, if it was warmed up before Shabbat or before Yom Tov,
According to Beit Hillel, mutar.
it would be mutar. That's not nichlal in the gzera. The gzera merchatzaot was only waters that were warmed up before Shabbat to take a bath.
Full bath.
But to take a shower, that's the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, we're about to see, that was not nichlal in the gzera. That's what we're going to show. So that's why they were saying, it's like it was warmed up on Shabbat or on Yom Tov. But if it was warmed up beforehand, then a chanami. L'ishtatef b'en kol gufo b'mutar. Yeah.
The whole idea of what? Panav yadav raglav just because mikvot Shabbat? What's the idea? Because
Panav yadav raglav was, I guess everyone we do it in the morning, you wash your face. Everyone does it every day. So that's this Beit Hillel is shov l'chol nefesh.
so also in Shabbat you do it?
Well, we're not allowed to warm up water on Shabbat, obviously. You're not allowed to do
No,
it.
I know.
Right,
but
right.
Just to wash them in Shabbat because it's a little bit it's very practical. Asur, mutar,
Yeah, we'll go over it in a minute, but let's see.
Okay.
Because we're going to have 3 Tanaim now, so let's see. V'hai Tanahu, and the author of our Mishnah is the following. It's based on the following Braita. The Tanya. The Braita teaches us like this. It's talking about Shabbat. Lo yishtatef adam kol gufo. A person is not allowed to take a shower. Ben bechamin u ben betzonen divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says both hot water. Now this hot water doesn't mean heated up on Shabbat. Of course, you can't heat up water on Shabbat. It means if
Even
the water
Shabbat.
was heated up before Shabbat, you're not allowed to wash with that. And you're also not allowed to take a shower even in cold water. So he holds, divrei Rabbi Meir, the way some of the Rishonim explain is, he held the Gzera Merchatzaot was so strong, not only was it to take a bath with water that was heated up before Shabbat, even to take a hot shower from before, and even to take a shower with cold water from before Shabbat, cold water bichlal. You can't take a shower on Shabbat bichlal. So he takes the Gzera very machmir, very far. Let's just write it down as we go through because kedai to keep track of this.
So mostly Rabbi Meir was machmir.
What's that?
We found some things that he was mekel, but in most of the things he was machmir.
So let's see. So lishtatef. Rabbi Meir is the first opinion. Rabbi Meir says, let's just put it like this. Gzera of Merchatzaot. So how far does it go? So Rabbi Meir says, Filu Betzonen.
אסור.
Asur.
מה זה בצהריים? לא רואים?
Cold water.
בצהריים.
You take a cold shower, it takes it
אתה לא
very
יכול לקחת
far.
בשבת.
Very far.
אפילו מים כאלה.
לפי רבי
Exactly.
מאיר, לעשות מקלחת,
כן.
דוש
כן.
קצר, אתה לא יכול מים קרים אפילו.
Exactly.
לפי זה.
בשבת.
אסור.
ולפי רבי...
נראה, יש פה 3 דעות.
Hold on.
Wow.
Number 2 is Rabbi Shimon. So this is we're going to say is the Tana of our Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon matir. Rabbi Shimon says mutar.
מתיר מה?
Matir ma. So he holds that even if it's hot water, but it was heated up before Shabbat, you could take a shower on Shabbat with that hot water.
Okay.
Okay? So if it was hot water heated up before Shabbat, chamin,
מוצר.
mutar, just milifnei Shabbat. Just point that word to be clear about that.
But I want to
Milifnei
understand.
Shabbat. Meaning, but it's very important to note, if it was, you can't heat up water on Shabbat. So it means if the water was heated up before Shabbat, you could take a shower on Shabbat with that water, because he holds the Gzeira Merchatzaot was only for taking a bath.
So maybe the gzera, maybe it's the same idea that we had before with the shichecha, on nechzara and sheya, before gzera and after gzera, that is matir.
I don't think we need to say that even. It means we can see it comes out
Because look at the
topless.
difference. He's like completely
They're
asur.
no, they're arguing.
He's completely
Yeah,
mutar.
exactly, they're arguing.
And afilu
Let's see.
nothing
Th-
together.
This isn't 2 times in history. They're arguing. They were the same tkufa. Remember, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Meir, they were different students of Rabbi Akiva. So these people existed together.
So probably understood it in another way and take it from another.
Let's see. No, they're arguing with each other. And the third opinion is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, he knows Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Loi, the same generation. Rabbi Yehuda omer bechamin asur b'tzonen mutar. That's a middle shita. He's the machriya, middle ground. So Rabbi Yehuda says,
עד שיבוא הכתוב השלישי.
actually, exactly.
ויחיה ביניהם.
Tzonen is mutar. So it means he holds if the water was heated up before Shabbat, you're not allowed to shower with that on Shabbat. So
Makes
then
more
you
sense.
are allowed to. So he holds the gzeira was only for hot water, even for a shower of hot water. But for cold water, you could take a shower on Shabbat, not a problem. So let's just be clear about this. So what we're saying is, Rabbi Shimon is the Tana of our Mishnah. So what the Chachamim were saying was, if you had this water passing through Chamei Tveria, coming out in a pool on the other side, if you want to take that and take a shower, you're not allowed. Why are you not allowed? Because the Gzeira Merchatzaot, even though, as we explained, if it was heated up before Shabbat, you could take a shower, this as if it was heated up on Shabbat, and for that, you're not allowed to take a shower. Now, this is both for Shabbat, let's remember, because if it was heated up on Shabbat, even if it was heated up from before Shabbat, so if it was before Shabbat, it would be mutar, that's not a gzeira. But if it was heated up on Shabbat, of course, it's going to be asur to take a shower. And on Yom Tov, too. Yom Tov, Beit Hillel holds it's only mutar to heat up water for panav yadav raglav. But to heat up water on Yom Tov, to take a shower, like we said, that would not be mutar. So now Rabbi Shimon is the Tana of our Mishnah. We've shown he's the author who would distinguish, make a chiluk. He's the Tana who makes a chiluk if the water was heated up before or on Shabbat or before or on Yom Tov, because before Yom Tov or before Shabbat you'd be allowed to take a shower in that on Shabbat or Yom Tov. If it was heated up on Shabbat or Yom Tov, you're not allowed to take a shower. Beautiful.
So
Yeah.
this is the achra basically.
Yeah, let's continue now. Now, what we're going to focus in is these 2 opinions. Basically, what comes out is we have a major machloket here between Rabbi Shimon
רבי יהודה.
and Rabbi Yehuda. Is chamin mutar, is chamin asur?
אין חדש תחת
Okay?
השמש.
Meaning it comes out when we say the water was heated up before Shabbat, are you allowed to shower with that on Shabbat? So Rabbi Shimon says the Gzeira was not extended to that. You're allowed to take a shower with that on Shabbat. Rabbi Yehuda says no, the Gzeira extended to that, you're not allowed to take a shower with those waters on Shabbat or on Yom Tov. So says Rav Chizdi, says like this.
זה עוד רב?
Yeah,
Rav
this is an Amora. He's going to explain
Tanaim.
when is this machlokes nogea. So Amar Rav Chizda.
עוקב אחרי מה שהתנא פסק, ולפי זה הם פירקו את זה.
Let me just explain this
על
outside.
הוועדה של תנא.
Let me just explain this outside before we see this inside. There's 2 ways you could have the hot water sitting. You could either have it sitting in a kli, a vessel, or in the ground, like a pool of some sort. Now, Rav Chizda is going to come and say something we're going to challenge it right away. We're going to say a kasha on it. Rav Chizda is going to say that this machloket is only if the hot water that was heated milifnei Shabbat is in a kli. But if it's in the ground, everyone holds it's mutar.
נכון.
Now, what's the logic in that? What's the logic in that?
תולדת חמה.
Oh, beautiful. He says like this, because if it's in a kli, even if it was heated before Shabbat,
The kli is warm enough.
people will see it and know, how do you usually heat up water in a kli? From the oven. Means you usually heat it up from Todot Ha'om. And they're going to think, how do you wash a shower? Usually in a shower, you'll add a little cold water to cool it down so it doesn't burn you. So people could start to think you're actually allowed to add cold water to that on Shabbat, which is asur. You're not allowed to add cold water to boiling water on Shabbat. So therefore he's going to say,
Only for drinking.
Well, that's not so simple. But the point is that says Rav Chisda, that's when there's a machloket and it's going to be asur. But if it's in the ground, he says like this, usually if it's in the ground, it's taken from like chamei teveria, from things that are more from the chama and less from the or, and there, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that it would be mutar to shower with that. We don't extend the gzera so far. Now, immediately the Gemara is going to jump on this, because the case of our Mishnah was clearly a case of teveria was in the ground, and yet it was asur. So that's what we're going to jump on, but let's see. Says the Gemara, Amar Chisda, says Rav Chisda, machloket bekli. This machloket is only if it's in a kli, means if the water was heated up before Shabbat, and now on Shabbat the boiling water is in a kli, so that's when Rabbi Yehuda is going to say you can't shower with that on Shabbat. Why not? So Rashi explains, because usually the water in the kli comes from the stovetop. It comes from the
kli is the one that basically warm it up.
And people will think if you're allowed to use this, you can add cold water to this, but that's an issue of bishul. It's going to be an issue. But if it's in the ground, since mistama that comes from, so the Mefarshim explain, it comes from the chamei teveria, it comes from a heat source that's from the chama and not from the or. So even Rabbi Yehuda says we don't have to make a gzera there, it will be mutar. So the Gemara says that doesn't make any sense, because in the Mishnah, what was the story of Anshe Tveria? Remember, the story was the cold water passed through a pipe, and where did it come out after? In a pool in the karka. That's not a kli. In the ground somewhere.
Yeah, but it started in the silon.
Where are you using it from? You're using it from that pool. That's what we're talking about here.
But it's in a process with the kli.
It doesn't make a difference. The point we're saying here is that when you want to take a shower, where are you taking it from? So if you're taking it from a kli, asur, according to Rabbi Yehuda. You're taking it from karka, it's mutar.
No,
it's not true. Look at the Mishnah. Look at the Mishnah. And the Abanan said it's asur.
In Hebrew, say rosh katan.
Right.
Okay.
So clearly what you see is that even if it's in the ground, there is reason to say it should be asur. You can't just say mutar across the board. So the Gemara says no. If you want to say chiluk, you could say as follows. This is what Chisda meant. Machloket bekarka, the opposite, is the machloket is if it's in karka, meaning if like in the case of the Mishnah, the water passed through the silon, it came out on the other side. Now it's in the karka. Aval bekli divrei hakol asur. But if it's in a kli, everybody holds it's asur. So meaning in the Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon held if it would have been heated up before Shabbat, actually before Shabbat, so then you can take a shower if it's in the karka. Now, in that, Rabbi Yehuda is cholek. He says no. If it was heated before Shabbat and it was in the karka, so there Rabbi Shimon says no gzera. There you can take a shower on Shabbat with that water. Rabbi Yehuda argues and says no. Even though it's in karka, it's still a problem. You can't take a shower with that on Shabbat. What?
Why?
What?
Why according to Rabbi Yehuda it's asur? It's in karka.
He held that to take a shower, bichlal, we extend the gzera even if it's bekarka. But the point is, if it was in a kli, if it's in a vessel which people could make a mistake to think was heated on the stove, and memela they'll add cold water, which
can be a bigger issue.
Even Rabbi Shimon would hold that's going to be a problem. Okay, so B'kitzer, at this point, what comes out is as follows. Let's just be clear. What we're coming out is we have a major machloket. Can you take a shower on Shabbat with hot water from before Shabbat? Rabbi Shimon holds you could. Rabbi Yehuda holds you cannot. We just explained in Rav Chisda. It could be everybody agrees if it's in a kli, it's legamri asur to take a shower. Fine. So now what's the psak?
So kli basically, if we're talking about dut shemesh, like for example, oladat chama, right? If the water is in a tank, okay, so what warm it up? The sun or the tank?
We spoke about this before. I think we came out that's called chama, right? Called chama. I believe that's what we
because the tank is not the item that really warm it up.
That's why he has it in his house. Exactly.
Made of plastic or something.
I think that's what it came out. Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's what we spoke about it. But Bezat Hashem, on Monday night we'll speak more about that because it's a very interesting inyan. I never even heard of that before, by the way. It's very interesting.
It's also applied to these things because what kli, what kind of kli you can really warm it up, like.
But again, remember, it's the water was heated before Shabbat. We're talking. What you're talking about is heated on Shabbat. That's a different discussion. That we'll get to, God willing, Monday night. We'll speak about it. But this it was heated before Shabbat, and it's sitting in a vessel. Before Shabbat, you heated it up on the stove, and now you want to take a shower.
So let's have a thermos, big thermos.
That's l'chora, again, the same idea.
It's
heated before Shabbat, and now you want to take a shower on Shabbat. So if it's in a kli, the way we're coming out is everyone will hold you now to take a shower on Shabbat.
It's preserved the heat.
Kulei alma.
So since it's preserved the heat in this specific thermos.
So it's not so much preserved the heat, it's the way it looks. Meaning, it looks like this is something that was heated on the fire, and people will think you can add cold water, and that's going to create a bishul problem. As opposed to if it's in the karka, people will think it's not from the fire, it's from Chamei Tveria perhaps, from the sun.
It's too hard.
What's that?
Because it's too hard when it's come to fire, it's burned the body, so that's why people have the machshava that they need cold water.
I hear, yeah, exactly. The Kitzer, what comes out here is, on Shabbat, are you allowed to take a shower with water that was heated up before Shabbat? And on Yom Tov, Rabbi Shimon holds it's mutar, Rabbi Yehuda holds it's asur, and Rabbi Shimon's the Tana of our Mishnah, which is why the Chachamim were telling on Shei Teveria, it's like it was heated on Shabbat. Mashma, if it would have been heated before Shabbat, you could use it to take a shower.
Because it was a kli, the silon.
No, that's not the reason. And the Mishnah was in Karka, again, because we look at it where you're taking it from. On Shabbat, are you taking it from Karka in the case which is the...
But they took off at the end this silon, right?
That was, in terms of the psak over there, we said they broke their pipes. Because that was a machlok.
But again, to go into this specific...
exactly, that was a different...
Chamei Tveria, it's allowed.
The way we're coming out, that we're saying now, Rabbi Shimon's the Tana of our Mishnah, and he would hold, the reason they told Anshe Tveria, it's like you did it on Shabbat, is because if they would have actually heated this water before Shabbat, you could take a shower with it. Why? Because it's in the karka. If they heat it on Shabbat, which the Chachamim were saying, that's the problem, therefore it's going to be asur. So in that case of Anshe Tveria, it's asur. That's the point, what comes out.
Because of the kli itself. But
nothing to do with the kli. Don't talk about the kli. It's in the karka now. The point is it's in a pool now. That's considered the karka. The point is they said it's asur, which we spoke about before. That was really a machloket Rabbi Yossi and the Chachamim. I don't want to touch back on that right now because we don't have so much time. But the point is that in terms of the diuk, the implication, if it would have been heated up before Shabbat, it'd be mutar. That's Rabbi Shimon's opinion. That's the point.
Okay, but right now I have a pool.
Yeah.
It's a karka.
It's karka.
So according to Rabbi Shimon, mutar.
If to take a shower, if it's heated up before Shabbat, you could take a shower with that on Shabbat. Exactly. That's what we would say at this point. Okay, let's go a little bit ahead.
Like a pool that I'm warming.
Theoretically, that's what would come out now.
I turn it off before Shabbat. It's kept warm. Preserve the heat a little bit.
That's what it would seem to be.
That's basically that.
But you understand why that is. I want to be clear why that is. Because the whole gzera was, gzerat merchatzaot, is that the people in the bathhouses would say they heated it up before Shabbat. But really, so the Chachamim made a gzera. The first step is not to take a bath. The question is, do we extend it also to not to take a shower? So that's a machloket. Rabbi Shimon holds we don't, and that's the Tana of the Mishnah, which Beit Hillel seems to agree with. Fine.
But what is a shower and what is a bath?
Oh, so it sounds like pouring it over your body versus immersing yourself. Yeah, let's go a little bit ahead here, Chev. Okay, last point here. Amar le Rav Yosef, Amar Rabba bar bar Chana, Amar Rav Yochanan. Let's talk about the psak. So Rabba bar bar Chana said the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was the Rebbe of Rabba bar bar Chana, and very often you see he quotes him. So Rabba bar bar Chana quotes his Rebbe, and he says the following: Halacha ka Rabbi Yehuda. The halacha actually follows Rabbi Yehuda the Machmir. Asur means if you warm the water before Shabbat, you can't take a shower on Shabbat. Beautiful. Amar le Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef turned back to Rabba bar bar Chana. He said like this: you're saying this psak in the name of your Rebbe, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was the Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael. So if you say this in his name, it holds a lot of weight. It's a very strong psak. Okay. I want to know, did you hear it clearly from him or michlala? What's michlala?
Maybe.
You implied it from something that he said. Dainu, did he tell you this psak clearly? Or did you just think that's what he holds based on something else that he said? So let's see. Beferish shmi alecha or mechlala shmi alecha? Did he say it clearly, directly to you, or just by implication? So the Gemara says, my klala, whenever we ask such a question, usually there's a reason we're asking it because maybe the implication is a weak implication. Dahainu, if somebody says something outright, straight, so we know that's what he holds. But usually if we're saying mechlala, it means maybe there was an implication that he said something, but you didn't understand him properly. So the Gemara says, my klala, what was the implication? It means, where would we have heard words of Rabbi Yochanan that perhaps imply the halacha should be like Rabbi Yehuda? So the Amar of Tanchum, Amar of Yochanan, Amar of Yanai, Amar Rebbe, very important. So Rabbi Tanchum, Rav Tanchum in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Yanai, in the name of Rebbe, Bira Nasi, he said the following rule about psak. Kol makom she'ata motzeh shnayim chalukin. If you find two extreme opinions, what does it mean? It means one is completely machmir and one is completely mekil.
You go for the chuma?
The echad machriya, and one of them is, he weighs them out, means he balances them out. Halacha k'divrei machriya, the halacha follows the word of the balancer, the one in the middle, which, by the way, who's in this case? Rabbi Yehuda. Because again, Rabbi Meir is completely machmir. He says you're not even allowed to take a shower in cold on Shabbat or Yom Tov, on Shabbat. Rabbi Shimon is the one who says that you're allowed to take a shower even in Chamin. And then Rabbi Yehuda says Chamin is asur, tzonin is mutar. So in the name of Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi, the halacha is like the divrei machriya when there's two extreme opinions. The only exception to this rule, chutz mikulei matlaniyot, which we learned back on Chavtet Amud Aleph and Bet. If you remember, we had a discussion there when you have a garment that's less than 3 by 3 tfachim. We wanted to know if it's mekabel tum'ah. Do you remember this?
Okay.
So we had three opinions, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua, and Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Eliezer was the most, Rabbi Eliezer was the most, try to remember.
Kaftet, no?
He said it is mekabel tum'ah. Let's just remember the case. The case was where you intended to use, it was less than 3 by 3 tfachim, so it doesn't have such chashivut. You intended to use it for a hishtamshut kala, like some sort of a unimportant use. We said like putting in the bathhouse pipes or something like that. So it loses its shem kli.
Smartut.
Exactly, like it loses its, but then
you hang it.
You did something with it that could perhaps give it back chashivut. We said either you put it on a peg, if it's not 3 by 3 tfachim, but it's not less than 3 by 3 etzbaot. You put it either on a peg or behind the door. So here we had a machloket as follows. Rabbi Eliezer said it regains its chashivut. Rabbi Yeshua said in either case it does not regain its chashivut, and Rabbi Akiva is in the middle. That's what it says. So this is the example, says Rabbi, that even though Rabbi Akiva is the machriya, nonetheless, we're not going to paskin like Rabbi Akiva. So let's just see that inside. She'afal pish Rabbi Eliezer machmir, Rabbi Yeshua mekil. Even though Rabbi Eliezer is machmir, he says it is a kli, it's mekabel tumah. Rabbi Yeshua is mekil, it's not mekabel tumah. Whether you put it behind the door on a peg. Rabbi Akiva machriya, and he was in between. Ein halacha k'divrei machriya. There we don't paskin like the machriya. Now what's the reason? There's two reasons. One reason is the Rabbi Akiva Talmidu. Rabbi Akiva was a student of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. So to say we paskin like the machriya is only if the machriya is on the same level as the other two opinions. But there, Rabbi Akiva, very interesting, is a Talmid of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. So we can't say he's machriya to paskin like him over his rebbeim. So exactly, we won't do it. And number two, va'od, turning to Mem Amud Aleph, Hadar be Rabbi Akiva legabed Rabbi Yeshua. If you remember, I'm not going to get back into it, but actually Rabbi Akiva was chozer to paskin in completely like Rabbi Yeshua, which was that he said either it was behind the door or on the peg, it's not going to be mikabel tumah. But the point is, we're not going to paskin like the machriya there. But in general, the rule is, if you have a machmir and a mekil and a machriya, paskin like the machriya. Now Rashi explains, very interesting, listen to this. What's the reason that we would follow that rule? It's a very logical thing. It's simple mathematics. We know whenever there's an argument, you follow the majority. Okay? Right. So if you have, in this case, let's go with this case. Rabbi Meir says, Betzonen is asur, even Betzonen is asur. Means Chamin is asur, Tzonen is asur. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Shimon says, Chamin is mutar. Right? He says Chamin is mutar. And then Rabbi Yehuda says, Chamin is asur, Tzonen is mutar. Okay. So like this. What comes out is, regarding Chamin, we have two opinions saying it's asur, and one opinion saying it's mutar. Because Rabbi Yehuda groups together with Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says Chamin is Asur. Rabbi Yehuda says Chamin is Asur. So it's 2 versus Rabbi Shimon on this. And therefore we follow the majority. And the same thing with Tzonen. Is that Rabbi Meir says Tzonen is Slicha. Rabbi Shimon says Tzonen is Mutar. Rabbi Yehuda says Tzonen is Mutar. So it's 2 versus 1. L'gabi Tzonen, we override Rabbi Meir. So the Machriya actually put him on the other side of the scale. In both issues, he override. That's what Rashi explains.
Is basically give the less vote that giving you it's 66%.
Exactly.
Or you're saying it's 33%.
Exactly. So what's the point? So you see, this is Rabbi Yochanan, the name of Rebbe. So the Gemara says this perhaps would be the source that Rabbi Yochanan paskins like the Machriya. That's why he paskins like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara says, but whenever we say such a thing, mechlala, it must be there's some weakness in the mechlala, because otherwise it's the same as beferush. So v'i mechlala mai. So let's say it was just mechlala, that Rabbi Bar Bar Chana was saying we pass like Rabbi Yehuda based on that implication. Sounds like a pretty good implication. So what's the problem with that? So the Gemara says no, because maybe Rabbi Yehuda Nasi only said this. What Rabbi Yehuda Nasi did, what did he do? He wrote the Mishnayot. So maybe he only said this rule, that it's a steadfast rule for Mishnayot. But this is a Braita. This machloket Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda about showering on Shabbat when the water was heated up before, that's a Braita. Maybe the rule doesn't apply to Braita. So it's not a good mechlala then. Maybe this rule only applies b'matnitin in the Mishnayot, which Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote. He recorded. Aval be'braita lo. But maybe when it comes to Braita, we don't say this rule. So therefore, Rav Yosef was telling Rabbi Bar Chana, if it's just mechlala, it's not a good proof. So Rabbi Bar Chana said, "Anna beferush mi'ali." I actually heard it clearly. It means Rabbi Yochanan told me that halakha is like Rabbi Yehuda. It wasn't based on mechlala. It was clear. He told me the rules like Rabbi Yehuda. You cannot shower with waters that were heated up before Shabbat. Completely, it's not going to be allowed. Okay, Chevra, we're stopping here. 2 dots. Top of Mem Amud Aleph. Zat Hashem. Yeah, we have 40 minutes. We have to go to the other Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Shimon. We learned about taking showers. Rabbi Shimon took a shower after the 12, 13 years. Baruch Hashem. Chevra, have a wonderful day. Hani mili. Hani mili is these words.
Hani mili.
Exactly. Yalla, Chevra, stop here.
יום טוב, חזק, תודה מתן.